Pin traders beware, Disneyland is cracking down on you, banning large displays and putting an end to a practice batch that has been going on for decades. And we're going to talk about it today on That Park Place. Okay, Vash, Disneyland has changed its pin trading policy and restricted large displays. This is by Cham Lee from thatparkplace.com. Disneyland has introduced new pin trading rules that changes how guests display and exchange collectible pins inside the resort. The updated policy allows guests to trade pins only with lanyards or small handheld pin trading accessories. Disneyland has explicitly banned the use of benches, chairs, or tables for pin displays. The revised guidelines appeared on Disneyland's official website in May of 2026. And according to the official pin trading policy, guests may continue trading throughout the resort if they follow the new rules. The policy also bans extra display materials such as lights, signs, and decorative setups. Guests who violate the guidelines could face removal from Disneyland property.
Yeah, but they would set up lights. They would set up lights. They would have all kinds of stuff. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's Marvin. It's a different animal out here. You've got people.
But you know what? Like
there.
in Epcot, there was an area in Future World where people would set up displays. Like they would have the big, huge boards, and they would have like the giant things with all the pins. And like the big books, they would take these giant books of pins and just like, you know, people would come to these tables and sift through them and trade. And it was like every single day people were there doing this. So was it the same thing at Disneyland? Because that actually sounds like, I mean, if there's sets involved, then that sounds like it might be a bit of a different animal.
Yes, that's absolutely involved. You had, I mean, obviously we had the binders, obviously we have these big pin boards, but what people would also do is they would bring in this kind of luggage arrangement almost, where they would have like a entire suitcase on wheels, essentially filled up with multiple stacks of pins, dragging those in, and then taking up benches, obviously, and you know, really creating an environment. I've heard it's almost like a swap meet. And it's interesting. There's a comment here in a video that I was watching in order to prepare for this. Former CM pin traders would often time monopolize benches, trash can tops, anything that they can to set their pin books on. Sometimes all seating and tables would be taken over by one pin trader, while the other traders would just stand there and take up even more spaces. Plus, insider pin trading fighting would get out of hand, which it did. I do remember a couple of incidents in which you had some very upset pin traders, let's say. I mean, it was absolutely insane, and there was certainly a culture, you know, surrounding it. There were people maybe, you know, making it into a kind of a small time business and so forth. I mean, it's starting to really kind of get out of hand. And so with these new rules actually being in place, some of that pin trading culture that I think turned a little bit toxic, for lack of a better term. And some of the just behavior, I think, really kind of goes away with this. It's very, very interesting, Marvin. Obviously, you know, you want a little bit of that culture because you want to have pins be sold on a regular basis. But how far is too far, and them kind of backing away from maybe people that are their most loyal fans? It's a very interesting thing here.
I can't imagine this is going over well with people that have kind of like, I'm just like, I never got into the pin trading thing, Dan. Like I tried once, like I bought one of those like box of random pins off of Amazon. It comes with like 200 pins, right? Just randomly. And like I got the lanyard and I went and tried to like, I got really bored with it really fast. But there's like an entire community that has risen around this.
Huge, and it's quite interesting if you look at the history of pin trading. I think George Kalogridis comes up with the idea in the 1990s after having visited, I believe it was the Winter Olympic Games somewhere. He's like, "Ooh, let's go ahead and take that back to Disney." And obviously, he was at one point the president of Disneyland and the president of Walt Disney World. So it's very kind of interesting if you actually trace back that history there. But Marvin, they have produced so many pins at Disney. They have actually lost count of how many pins they've produced.
Wow.
It's that many. Yeah, it's just absolutely insane. Man.
That is insane. Jeff Elms here saying, I'm sure those people fight over their spot too. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. People, yes. Like, it's like staking out your claim at the gold mine, like for pan and gold.
Extremely territorial. There's no question. And I shared you a link, a Reddit link actually, Marvin, and the private chat over there, in which it shows what that pin setup looks like today. And a lot of people in that Reddit thread, this was I think posted 5 days ago, were very, very excited about the prospect of these pin traders with their kind of designated area being removed in place with something like this, with something that's a little bit more. Yeah, this is put on by the company itself.
Yeah, this is Disney doing it.
Yes, and a lot of people were excited that this is now the new setup, and
because people were excited about that, they weren't like angry about it.
No, a lot of people, understood that it had really become toxic in this kind of very, corner of Frontierland right there. It's kind of at the entrance there, so you can't necessarily miss them. And it's just, it was like very swap meet vibes, and not in a good way. And so a lot of people were very excited that the setup had changed, as illustrated in this picture.
Because people didn't like what it had become.
No, not at all. I
wonder if they're going to roll this out in Walt Disney World, because just the other day when I was at Epcot, I saw somebody leaving with their rolly bag full of pins. So I'm like, they're still doing this somewhere in Epcot. I just don't know where.
Right.
It's like the daily occurrence, too. People are coming with these giant binders, and they said, I can't imagine people setting up lights and signs though in Disneyland. That is insane.
That's crazy. I mean, it really is.
I'm shocked it took Disney this long to crack down on that.
Yeah. Well, I think, they had cracked down on it a couple times. It was like, okay, well, you can't just take a random bench and like claim it for yourself, right? We're going to have a designated pin area. Then it was like, you can't take away random tables from guests and so forth. We're going to have tables provided for you in that pin trading area. And so they kind of wrangled them a little bit, but this is a big move here, guys, to deny people the ability to bring in those huge notebooks, for example, and not actually take up a designated space within these parks. I think they're saying that, you might be able to, pin trade with like a lanyard only in line or something, or throughout your Disney day, but none of this kind of territorially taking an entire area and so forth dedicated just for this practice. I mean, it's a big cultural shift, especially for those big time pin traders. And I do wonder, Marvin, just how bad it may have gotten to force their hand in doing something like this, because we know that there was a lot of stuff that was actually happening with the Thomas Muslim area, in which they were putting the guests first and so forth, and in which they were altering some of their procedures, policies, and so forth in order to accommodate the greater subset of guests and all of that. And I think in that valuation, this was it, which is really, really interesting. We've seen like the removal of the magic bands from Disneyland, which is very, very interesting. I think Thomas Muslim came out and said, look, only 7% of people actually use those magic bands. So why are we dedicating...
Is that true? 7% of people were using them? That's insane.
Disneyland.
Right. Disneyland.
Versus, versus like Walt Disney World, for example, where 55% are using those magic bands, which is why you'll still see magic bands at Walt Disney World. But it was kind of like, look, if in fact we're dedicating so many resources to just 7% of guests, couldn't we better use those resources towards other things? They got rid of the spinning function on Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. This is a signature feature of that attraction, and it was like, look, we can have more guests be put through the attraction with higher capacity and lower maintenance, and we can have smaller guests and so forth actually be on that attraction without any issue. So they are certainly making a lot of moves in Disneyland in order to accommodate the greater subset of guests, and it's really interesting to see them do this.
Right, absolutely. By the way, you can trade pins with cast members whenever you want. They also, I don't think they can refuse a trade. I don't think so. Like, if you want one that they have and you give them one, they have to give it to you. Right. But that's also because they're not really theirs. Like, from what I understand from talking to cast members, there's literally just a big thing of pins in the back, and they just take the ones that they're going to have for the day from that. And those are just the traders. But and
I want to say, Marvin, they relaunched pin trading because it wasn't a feature that came back immediately following the COVID closures. I think it had to be relaunched officially in 2022, 2023, somewhere around that. I can't quite remember when exactly. Maybe somebody can check and let me know. But when they did, the merchandise department said that they had to kind of retrain cast members in order to pin trade effectively, I guess, right? Because a lot of cast members didn't actually know what pin trade was all about, how it worked, all of that. So they actually had to go through a training course or process to get some of these cast members trained up on how it all worked. But the merchandise team spent a considerable amount of time on the re-rollout of pin trading. And so to see the company, at least in Disneyland, shift so heavily, it must have gotten real bad.
Have you ever heard of people like actually charging money for the pins as part of a trade? Like, okay, well, okay, you could trade me that one for this one, but you also have to give me $20.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
I could totally see that grift happening, and Disney would be livid at that.
No, absolutely.
You just gave them $20 that you could have given us?
Right. And I think some of that was going on because, a lot of people would have, these kind of side hustles or these kind of small businesses established around this pin trading. So I'm sure, Marvin, that was going on. Now, if you do that on Disney property, go ahead.
Go and Shogi's seen it. Seen it happen, Marvin. Yeah. Those pin binder people were running full scams, and I have no problem with kicking out the pin scalpers.
Right. And if I'm telling you, if Disney catches you doing that, oh boy, is that bad news for you. But I'm sure, Marvin, I'm sure what's going on. Go and Shogi being a Disneyland regular right there. Yeah, I can almost say with full certainty that absolutely is taking place. And maybe one of the reasons why they were like, no more.
Absolutely no more. Yep. Well, guys, pin trading is going to continue, but if you want to have elaborate displays and signage and whatnot, make a spectacle of yourself, you're gonna have to take that plan and put a pin in it.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.